I was terrified because I just didn't really know anything, and I was kind of winging it and looking around me, you know, and there were some quite experienced actors there. But, you know, Larry Parr and Ainsley Gardner was working on that too, and the other actors, you know, Phil Pinner and Adam Gardner, and they took me under their wing, and because I was quite a bit younger than everybody else. Steve Hickey and Andrew Patel, they really looked after me. They were the writers, and I just felt like I'm just going to use this as my experience thing, and I just tried not to look too scared. I haven't watched the film recently. Maybe I do look petrified, I don't know. What was challenging was just keeping the vibrancy of what you're doing alive and remembering how the plot and of the stories, you know, how to map those. For me, that was the hardest thing because you're not working chronologically, you know, you're kind of working in blocks, but you're mixing up a little bit and you have to sort of remember the before and the after of what you're doing in that moment. So that was a really good learning curve, and I loved being in work for a long period of time. I just thought, you know, I was still young, and I kind of unrealistically thought, oh, this is how it's going to be, you know, just big long stretches of work. It's great, you get to know people intensely. I loved the crew, you know, I loved getting to know my crew just as much as the actors, but they're such a support for you because they're there through every scene, and some of your actors are just there for some of them. So for me, that was when I really started to love looking at the other elements of screen, you know, like who is your boom and who's, you know, adjusting the lights, and just getting to trust that group of people was really cool. What made it truly wonderful was that it was a great cast, but you know, Toa had rehearsals, which I loved. We had rehearsals, and he was really interested in our input. So, you know, you would say something off the cuff and he would go, oh, he's like a little magpie. He takes things and he stores them away, and then you forget you've even said them, and he brings them up later. And so you feel really valuable. So you feel like you're actually contributing and not just a mouthpiece for his words. In terms of the story itself, like, I remember there was one scene that I didn't like. I really didn't like, and I said to Toa, I don't think this scene needs to be this long. It was like 3 pages long, and the dialogue was a bit clunky, and he will admit to this, I can say that. But it was between Charlene and her mother at the end of the film, and which is Tanya Heke, who I love. And I said to him, can we cut some stuff? And he was like, you're always asking me to cut your lines, because there were so many lines. I was like, she doesn't need to say that. Why does she need to say that? Because, you know, sometimes things are a little bit overwritten, and some characters can just sit back, and I was quite happy to just have the reaction and not have the line. And he was like, okay, go, you and Tanya go off. And so we killed it to like maybe a page and maybe 3 lines each. And it was just such a great scene. It's one of my favourite scenes because I had so much to do with it. But, you know, Tor was really, really happy, really excited. I mean, he had so much going on. And I was excited because I felt like, you know, my input was so valuable. I love sort of scary movies and thriller type things, so that's why I was kind of drawn to this. And I got to work with Peter Berger, which was cool. And I got to work with Jason Behr, who was, you know, interesting to work with an American actor, and he was lovely. And we're still, not so much now, but, you know, in the past few years we've been, you know, emailing and checking up. And Pete was great, you know, Pete came round, and because we had these sort of nudie scenes, you know, they're not really nude scenes, but, you know, more than I'd ever done before. So he was really, you know, came round to my house. And I'd known Pete for a while, and, you know, we had a glass of wine and we talked about what the shots would be and da-da-da. I just felt like so grown up. It was quite far away from where I was at that time in my life, and I had never had children. So here I was, you know, portraying childbirth with a room full of people who'd all had children. I mean, Katie had children, you know, Katie Wolf, the director, had children. So I was petrified because I thought, I've got to do this well, you know, because there's nothing worse than a bad birth scene, you know. I think it's worse than a bad death scene, it's a bad birth scene. But anyway, and it was a really emotional shoot for me. Like, I remember we had spent pretty much most of the day in the hospital scene shooting before I got released, and at the Waitakere hospital. And, you know, you're going through all these things where you're sort of portraying somebody giving birth. And I felt completely spaced out afterwards. And I remember driving home and just bursting into tears and sobbing all the way home. I thought, what is going on? Like, and I truly believe it was kind of like when you physicalize something that much, you go through a sort of trauma. I read the script and I really enjoyed the script because I love a twist. I'm the person who watches and goes, I'm watching for the twist. You know, when you get it yourself, you're like, yeah. And I only got it just as it was happening in this one, so I really enjoyed the twist of the story. Edwin Wright was in it and David was in it, so we were sort of the three, the triangle. And I was pregnant. I think I was about 5 months pregnant with my first child. So again, it was that thing of like playing a character that was in a situation that I wasn't in, but that to feel what that would be like to be pregnant, to have a relationship fall apart, the vulnerability of where you are, you know, physically having about to have a baby with this person, and then your world falls apart, and what that means, and that was really intense and really quirky. I had so much fun doing that. We played, this was pre-Auckland Daze, and Millen's, you know, skit comedy is so funny. He's such a great writer, and he's just, you know, we'd just been fits of giggles, like there'd be more off-takes than on-takes kind of thing. And we'd be playing, Millen would be playing multiple characters, but we would all be playing different characters, and there'd be guys dressed as women, that, you know, and all this sort of thing. And it was just a really tight group of people, and I got to sort of do that fast shooting TV thing again and remember, oh, that's right, you've got to be on your game, you know, running your lines while you're getting your makeup change and all that stuff. I was just really stoked to see Oscar, who I'd seen as a kid. I mean, I saw him in everything in Wellington, and Dave Farney, and that, you know, I'd seen all these guys growing up going, wow. And there I was in his thing with, you know, him doing a dramatic role, and yeah, I was just really proud of it. And I thought they did a great job of portraying the harsh reality of what is actually going on. They didn't coat it with candy and sort of make it something palatable. It was brutal, you know. What I really love about it is the connection of those 4 guys, because it's such a great thing to get 4 different people who all need each other and can't give each other what the other one has. And I think that's why it worked. They're all neurotic, crazy, you know, useless people who you love. But there's moments when, you know, one is more useless than the other, and this person can save them with this. And I just love that balance. So I was quite happy to go in and do a little tiny part just to be part of the bigger machine. Yeah, it was cool. It would be nice to of course get into directing and things, but I'm quite cruisy really. I just see what comes along, and then if I want to do it, I do it, and if I don't, I don't. So yeah, and managing kids, you know, and a partner and stuff. It's a balancing act, but at least I get to balance it with what I love and not something that I really don't like. So yeah, it's a good place to be.